Okay guys, a bit of a longer video today. I wasn't really expecting to do too many of these, but news has come out and is broken, so we're going to break it here on the channel. It's a bit of an off the cuff, I guess, another one. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and yeah, I'll explain a few things at the end of the video which I hope might be helpful for you guys. But yeah, Ryan Burnett versus Lee Haskins, Mike Perez, and Paul Highland were on the Belfast card on Saturday. I guess we'll discuss that in brief, and we'll kind of discuss the news and the this week's action, Kovalev versus Ward 2. So, Paul Highland, don't learn too much of him, but seems to be a highly touted prospect, especially in the sort of Belfast area and the Northern Ireland region. But he seems decentish, I guess. Yeah, we'd have to see more of him, but from a promotional standpoint, he's definitely getting a lot of hype. So yeah, we'll see where he goes. He's got the IBF Euro belt now, which I think is a new belt. So yeah, best of luck to him. Mike Perez looked very good in terms of his shape and physique. Didn't really learn too much again. Blowout, 30 seconds I think it was. So yeah, hopefully he does well. He's got some momentum, I guess, in his career now. He's moved back down. He's moved down from heavyweight, sorry. And yeah, let's see what opportunities he gets. Hopefully he gets some good opportunities, and hopefully he kicks on, and wins a world title, because he's definitely got the skill set to win a world title. Hopefully he's just not weight drained or anything like that at cruiserweight, and he gets some rounds under his belt very soon. Burnett versus Haskins, this is a very good performance from Ryan Burnett. I did have some doubts going into the fight over him. How good was he? I did think he stagnated slightly. Maybe Lee Haskins is coming towards the end of his career, but cannot discredit Ryan Burnett. He showed some very good skills in the fight, and he put the pressure on when he needed to put the pressure on. He boxed from range when he needed to box from range, and he really flustered Lee Haskins. Lee Haskins is a very tricky, awkward customer, and he definitely neutralized some of his threat, or a lot of his threat, and won quite handily. The scorecards were pretty poor, and they've subsequently come out the IBF and said it was a judging error, which is pretty bad. It does look a bit silly that the judge was kind of watching the fight, and he asked one of the cameramen who was who, and he scored it for the wrong guy. And worst thing was, he scored it completely wide for the guy, Lee Haskins. So yeah, I guess they need to sort that out. These sort of weird decisions have happened in the UK more often than not, especially on the matchroom cards, to be honest. But hopefully it gets sorted out, and obviously they've confirmed it's an error. So thankfully the right man did win it in the end. So yeah, that's a good thing. Obviously they're talking about potentially unifying. I don't know about that one. At the moment I'd say Ryan Burnett needs a few more fights, but there are fights out there that he could potentially unify the division. Zolani Tete's there. I don't think that fight's going to happen with Tete on BT and Box Nation. The other fight, Zakyanov, Ricky Hatton fighter, that may or may not happen. That's probably the most likely. That or the Jamie McDonnell fight, although the Jamie McDonnell fight probably wouldn't be a unification because of the WBA regular title. So I mean, there are options out there for Ryan Burnett, but for me, if I was with him, if I was in his team, I'd advise him take a few more fights. Not easy fights, but definitely fights that he can build, and he can definitely improve, and kind of just gather more momentum than he already has, and pick up new tricks of the trade in the pro ranks. He's still relatively early. I think he's 17 fights in, so he's working with a very good trainer in Adam Booth as well. So yeah, let's see how far he goes. He definitely stepped up from the level he's fighting at. He fought at a British sort of level, Ryan Farag, and he didn't look so good. In this fight he looked very good. So it seems like he does have the skills, but he just needs to keep it consistent, and there are some holes in his game still. But as I said, with more fights, more rounds, and the trickier opponents, I think he'll perform better, and he seemed to do a lot better, so I have to give him some credit. Lee Haskins, as I said, coming towards the end of his career, I guess. He's still a good fighter. He's a very good fighter, and you know, he may come again, he may not, but he's definitely, you know, he paid his dues. He won a world title, and he's one of the better fighters over, you know, in the UK scene that have won a world title, and he definitely deserved it. He worked very hard to get it. So yeah, congrats to him, and a lot of respect shown between the two fighters, which is always nice to see. So there's news obviously this week. There's a lot of news, to be honest. I've actually wrote down a list. So normally I don't write a list, but there's been a fair amount of news, especially for the last few weeks, because you know the boxing season's coming to a close. So I guess we'll kind of just run down the list and discuss some of the topics or the factors surrounding it. Eubank Jr. versus Arthur Abraham has been made for the IBO super middleweight title. I don't really have too much to say on it. I know Eubank is a popular figure, him and his father, but I tried to give him as little airtime on my channel as possible. Don't get me wrong, if he probably popped on the channel and had an interview with him, I'd probably jump at it. But yeah, you know, he equals ratings, so I guess we got to mention him. You know, it's not a terrible fight. Arthur Abraham is known in quarters over the world. You know, in America, in Germany, in the UK, to against Carl Froch, against Paul Smith, Martin Murray. So you know, he people know who he is. He's not the huge name, but he's definitely a respectable name, and I think it's smart and calculated matchmaking by Eubank and his sort of handlers. You know, Eubank should win this fight for me by wide decision. But you know, Arthur Abraham, if he does clip Eubank, and Eubank does get clipped, definitely, it'll be interesting to see how Eubank deals with it. You know, at middleweight, maybe he can take the sting of the punches from the bigger guys. Maybe not the Golovkins, but you know, the guys below them, and you know, the Spike O'Sullivans and those sort of British level guys. But you know, Arthur Abraham, he's not the biggest puncher, but he definitely has, you know, enough power to gain your respect and gain your attention. So it'll be interesting to see how it works, but I do think he's slow, he's a bit plodding. So yeah, I do think Eubank should win by wide UD, but you know, I guess it's how the judges score it, and you know, there's a variety of different factors. So it'll be interesting to see how the fight pans out, but I do think Eubank should win by wide UD. You know, Abraham's pretty much past it. He got 12-0 by Gilberto Ramirez. Eubank, you know, he's not a Gilberto Ramirez, don't get me wrong, but you know, he's definitely a very, very good inside fighter, and I do think he'll cause Arthur Abraham a lot of problems on the inside. So that's kind of my rundown on that. Let me know your thoughts on Eubank versus Abraham. It's on ITV pay-per-view, which again is awful. Please do not buy it. If you are a real boxing fan, do not buy this. If you take anything from this video, positive or negative, please do not you know, buy this. It's just, for me, it's a farce. Even though there's a good you know, sort of co-main event on the undercard, but it's just not worth the money for Eubank. I think Eubank, especially Eubank Senior, just, you know, ripping the public off. I don't know what his problem is, but that's just my opinion, I guess. What do I know? I'm just an armchair analyst, so to speak. But yeah, anyway, let me know your thoughts on Eubank versus Abraham. Dennis Salen versus Kid Galahad is on the undercard. Pretty decent fight, I'll be honest. Pretty decent fight. You know, for me, I'd be more interested in this fight than the Arthur Abraham and Eubank fight. You know, Dennis Salen is a typical European style fighter. He's European featherweight champion. Kid Galahad is, you know, a drug cheat. I had to throw that out there first, but yeah, he's obviously from the Ingle Gym. He trains with Kell Brook and those guys, and he's touted to be, you know, a decent fighter, a world champion in the making. For me, I just haven't seen Kid Galahad. You know, as in, I haven't seen him in that ilk. I don't think he's a world champion in the making at all. He's a decent operator at a certain level, but for me, you know, he's not a huge featherweight. Especially, I think Dennis Salen is a huge featherweight. And I think Dennis Salen is actually below the, you know, the world level guys. I do think he's like fringe world level. Where he's operating at is probably his level. European, between European and world level, there or thereabouts. Do think he can compete with the guys like Abner Mares, Scott Quigg, um, you know, Simeon, those sort of fringe guys that are on the fringes of world level, but they're not there yet, or they might not break the barrier. Salen is, as I said, he's a tall, typical European style fighter, and he had a good fight against Ryan Walsh. He won that fight, and yeah, I think in this fight he'll probably do much of the same, and I do think Galahad is a bit basic from what I've seen of him. I don't think he's electrifyingly fast, or I don't think he's highly calculated on the back foot. I do think Dennis Allen has a decent jab, and he could pick him off at times. And yeah, it might be a tight fight going into the scorecards, but I expect Dennis Allen to take the fight on points, just probably like 8-4 or something like that. Close and competitive, I guess, what I describe the fight as. So in that respect, I'd say it's a good fight. It's a competitive, very competitive fight, and yeah, one I'm looking forward to. I won't be paying for the pay-per-view again, but I'd be keeping my eye on that and probably whacking it on a stream or something like that. Just to see how the fight gets on and how each of them look. Do you think Galahad's actually moved up as well, just to chase the paydays? Carl Frampton and Scott Quigg, especially in the UK. So I guess we'll see how calculated the move to featherweight is for Kid Galahad. Speaking of Carl Frampton has announced his fight today. He will be fighting Andres Gutierrez, a 23-year-old Mexican, for in an eliminator for the WBC world title, which is held by Gary Russell Jr. A fight between Frampton and Gary Russell potentially is a very good fight. Do I think it will happen? Gary Russell's talked about moving up to super feather. He does say he struggles to make the weight. He's not the biggest featherweight in terms of height, but I think stature, he's very heavily muscled at the weight. So maybe that's probably why he wants to move up in weight, and he wants to chase the Lomachenko rematch. I do think Lomachenko will beat him again, but Gary Russell, he always possesses the fast hands and power, so you never know. He always has a puncher's chance in the fight. Yeah, I mean, Gutierrez, I've seen one or two fights of him prior to making this video and beforehand. Don't think he's anything special. He lost to a lad called Christian Mijares, and he had about 8 losses and 50 wins or something like that. But he's a gatekeeper, and he lost to him by sort of majority decision or something like that. And for me, he's not Gutierrez should be a beatable fighter for Frampton. Frampton should have a bit too much in the tank for him. If he underestimates him, similar to how he did against Alejandro Gonzalez, then yeah, potentially then he could struggle and be a bit of a banana skin. But I do think Frampton is looking at world honours again. He's looking at a different route this time. Obviously, Santa Cruz might be fighting Mares to get one belt for the WBA. Then obviously if Frampton goes down the WBC route, that there's potential there. There's a couple of guys there. Josh Warrington's there in those rankings. I think he's number 1 or 2. Jojo Diaz is there as well. So there's some good potential fights if he wants to fight for a final eliminator, unless he gets picked out as a voluntary, similar to how he did against Leo Santa Cruz. Sorry. So I mean, there is potential there, but I'd expect him to beat Gutierrez fairly comfortably on July 29th. There is other boxing July 1st as well. That's a bit of a prospect show, but we'll cover that closer to the time. The last bit of news that I have for you guys is Billy Joe Saunders' opponent, Avtandil Kurtzide, I think his name is. If I mispronounce that, then I apologise. But yeah, he has the mini Mike Tyson, as they call him. They've arrested him in America, as far as I know, and they've charged him with various different sort of cases and whatnot. So yeah, that Billy Joe Saunders won't be on the July 8th or July 9th or something like that. He won't be on that card, and basically he has to wait for his mandatory, which is still Kurtzide, but they may have to strip the interim title off him and allow him to fight the next sort of contender in line. I guess that would be the next port of call for the WBO. But they've openly come out and said that he needs to fight his mandatory in his next fight, otherwise he will be stripped. So yeah, it's disappointing for Billy Joe. I really like his skill set. I think I appreciate his style. I was actually talking to a different cousin of mine, and he seems to be into his boxing as well. Slightly more casual than my other one, but he was talking about Danny Jacobs, Billy Joe, and he was talking about Canelo versus Golovkin. I said Billy Joe on his day, he can give anyone problems. He's so slick, so skilled, so stylish. He's definitely he's definitely a very good operator. I do think he can make 154, but he just doesn't live the life, and he gets away with it because his skill set is so good. But he's training with a good trainer, Adam Booth. I do think he can get him into very optimal condition at 160, but depends how he always fades down the stretch. And I did say that to him. So, for me, Billy Joe would beat someone like a Danny Jacobs, in my opinion. Danny Jacobs is good at a certain level. He's obviously good. We saw him against Golovkin, and he gave Golovkin a lot of problems. But for me, Billy Joe is very slick, and he'd make Jacobs probably force the fight a little bit, and he'd probably pick him off on the back foot. But as I said, it's disappointing. I'd like to see him in action. So when we do see him in action, like it'll be a rare treat, I guess. Him and Tyson Fury. So yeah, that's kind of all the news I have on Billy Joe. He won't be boxing in July. He'll be boxing maybe in the coming months if the WBO make it mandatory for him. Last but not least, Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev is this weekend, Saturday. Sunday for the UK fans. But it will be on Sky Sports, so we'll be able to watch it. The rematch. I want to know your thoughts first. Do you guys have any interest in this fight? It's been very low key, the build up. There's been heat between the two, but in terms of the actual build up, the profile, there hasn't been too much profile. Normally Twitter blows up. I always see social media just generally it's buzzing about it. YouTube is the YouTubers are making loads of videos about it, but generally I haven't seen anything in that sort of ilk for Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev. So I mean, I don't really have too much to say on the fight in terms of it's a rematch. It's for the majority of the belts at 175, and it's a good fight. I don't need to hype up the fight more than it isn't, I guess, because it's not really hyped too much from my perspective. But the fight itself is a great fight and one that I'm looking forward to. I always have an interest in these big fights as well as small fights for people who follow the channel. So yeah, I'm picking Ward, but I'm not really confident in that pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kovalev wins. And I don't. If I'm honest, I'd prefer Kovalev to win. Do you know what? I actually don't care who wins. I don't really have a preference as to who wins. They've both been talking rubbish, and I don't really care as long as they turn up to fight. That's the main thing. And yeah, I'm picking Ward to win by decision. I do think he probably come in, be a bit more cuter, be a bit more smarter in this fight than he was in the first fight, and I think he'll probably neutralise a bit of Kovalev's threat, especially in the early to mid rounds. In the later rounds, I do think Kovalev has a tendency to gas a little bit, so Ward can pick up the later rounds, but I think in the early rounds he'll be a bit more sharper, a bit more cuter, a bit more smarter, and I just think he might pick up 1 or 2 extra early rounds and probably win, 8-4, something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kovalev goes out and he boxes, because he's got good fundamentals and he's got very good power as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he boxes and knocks him out, or if he just boxes him from range. But Andre Ward always seems to find a way. So as I said, I'll belatedly, or not even belatedly, unfortunately pick Andre Ward. That's kind of my pick for the weekend by decision. So yeah, that's kind of the rundown on all all of the news, last week's fights and this week's fights. It isn't too much to, you know, add on what I've discussed. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Eubank, especially you know, Galahad, Billy Joe Saunders, Frampton, everything that we discussed. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. It's what makes the channel, you know, interesting and fun for me. I love making the videos. So yeah, on note of the videos, I know I got some positive feedback in the last few videos, probably because you didn't have to see my ugly face on the screen. So yeah, shout out to all the people that have supported and, you know, really pushed the channel and supported it, even though I haven't been active, and I've been trying to get active as of, you know, recent times. So appreciate that, and yeah, just keep supporting. I'm going to be doing probably more of the gameplay videos because it seemed to go down well with a few people, and you know, there isn't much boxing on, so I don't want to force the videos for you guys. I like to just give out different types of videos, be unique, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. You know, let me know if you don't. If you don't, more than happy to unsubscribe or you know, or don't watch the videos. However you guys feel comfortable, you know, that's up to you. I just give out the content and I enjoy what I do, as I said. So yeah, I'll probably be more of the gameplay since there is a bit of a die down in the boxing season. So yeah, for the next sort of couple of months, at the very least, if not, I'll continue it because I love playing games and doing videos. So that's kind of my 2 pence on that. And yeah, last but not least, I'd have to give a massive shout out to Ace Gaming X or Ace X or Ace Arts. Too many aliases for him, but my friend Sean, he's my good buddy. Outside of you know, outside of, well, the bubble we all live in, he's a fantastic friend, and yeah, please everyone go subscribe to him. I'll leave his link down below. He made a very nice vlog, very cinematic and very interesting. He does some very interesting videos, so please go check him out. We went to Brighton a few weeks ago and with some of the boys from university, and you know, we're a good sort of group. We get along really well, and I like to think I make some good friends out of uni, and we definitely do something together in the near future. But please do check him out, and yeah, it'd be much appreciated. Like, sub, share, both to my channel and to his channel, helps a lot, and the support you give is, you know, don't worry. I always see the support, all the comments. I can't reply to everything, but I do try my best, and it does not go unnoticed. Believe that. And yeah, that's all for me today. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Or leave all your comments in the section below. Like, share, sub, as I said before. And yeah, speak to you soon. Peace.